Hi, Anna. That was just like a lot of doorbells right there. It says low system resources. All right, I'm going to try to find some applications.
Is it services available? Is that what I said?
Hey everybody, this is Marika. We're going to give everyone just a couple more minutes, and I'm having some technical difficulties, so I'm going to work those out. So my video is not on right now, but then I'll hop back on in a minute. Hi everyone, we're going to give it one more minute before we get started because I know there were 15 folks who registered. So I'll just give those other folks a couple minutes maybe, and then we'll get started. You can use the chat box during this if you find it, and let me know if you have any technical difficulties. It's been kind of finicky today, so we'll see what Zoom is up to this afternoon. If you are not hearing me, there's a call-in number as well. So you might want to try using your phone to call in instead of your computer audio. Thanks, Hannah. Okay. All right. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. I've shared my screen, so you should be able to hear everything. And if you can't, please use the dial-in that was in the chat. This is going to be recorded only for the sake of consistency and not because we're going to like share our web chat, because who wants to do that? Because we're doing another one of these in a couple weeks. So the questions that you guys have, I want to make sure that we reflect those in the second round of this. And if we have any different questions, we get back to you guys with those answers. So we're just doing that recording for posterity for that. Okay, so welcome everyone to the pre-application webinar for Dare to Dream America for the 2018 awards. I'm glad you all could join us today. Normally we would work on, doing an icebreaker if we were doing some learning, but for today, for the sake of time, if you just want to introduce yourself in the chat box, where you're currently located, where you're from, maybe what your role is within your organization, your job title if you have one, that would be great. And my name's Marika. For those of you who haven't met me before, I'm the Director of Member Services with Youth Move National. We have a couple other Youth Move National team members on with us. Madeline Zielinski is our Youth Program Specialist for Member Services, and Michael was here. He's our Communications Coordinator as well. So welcome everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the Dare to Dream application. And answering your questions, giving you an overview of the award, and seeing if you guys would be interested in, where you're at with the application process. So I'm going to try to check the chat box as I can. Okay. Alrighty. So if you can, while we go through this, hold your questions until the end. You'll have the ability to unmute yourself at the end, but that way we can get through the information. It might get your question answered, and then if you still have questions at the end after I go over a couple of things, you can feel free to answer your questions. So if you need to jot them down, or if you want to put them in the text box, the chat box, in case you forget, that's fine too. I just want to answer them until the end. Okay. So first, just a little bit more about what we're going to cover. We're going to be talking about the Dare to Dream awards, the application, and some ideas from past projects, as well as the expectation around coaching. There's some webinars you'll need to attend if you receive an award, and there's some evaluation and reporting that you'll need to do, as well as what the next steps are going to be, and then question and answer time. So originally, this is a program from Canada that we borrowed. That's why it's Dare to Dream America. So this is our version of things. And Youth Move National has funded over 80 Dare to Dream projects since 2008. Many of them have focused on community education, stigma reduction, building leadership skills, learning to access resources, and anti-bullying awareness. And previous projects have included art, poetry, music, dance, photography, as well as develop policy initiative projects. So there's a wide variety of types of projects. Really, that's where the dreaming part comes in for Dare to Dream. So think big. Think about things that haven't been in your community that might help address stigma and increase awareness around mental health concerns. So our application process, just a few pointers. The application can be found on our website. It's available to download. And key points about the application, because we're not going to go through it page by page because it's really long. But the application must be youth-driven and written by youth. And we define youth roughly as ages 13 to 25 for this project. And they are due December 15th. The applications are reviewed by a committee of youth and young adults, and we work very hard to recognize the effort that goes into writing all of the applications, and we will be able to tell if they are not youth-written and youth-driven, and that won't help you out if you get someone else to write the application for you. We'll talk about the role of a supportive adult in a second, but the main application should be written by youth. Okay. So in the application, you'll see that there's a section about a supportive adult. What in the world do we mean by a supportive adult? So this is a person who will support you or your team throughout the life of the project. There is a big description in the application, but this person would also need to attend webinars. There will be coaching calls, and they will also be administering the funds as described within the application. So if you were to get the grant award, you would need someone who is able to administer the funds, sign paperwork for you, and if you're part of an agency, sign off on an accounting summary, which is basically like a log, like your checkbook of where all the money went for the Dare to Dream Award. There's also a final report and some evaluation that needs to be done, and a supportive adult is a key role in completing that, because a lot of people haven't done that before. So we ask that every team has a supportive adult. It can be a staff person at an agency where you work. It could be someone with another young adult who falls outside of the youth realm, but is willing to help you with this project. It can be someone that you know personally, but there's a lot to put into the project. So you want to think about who you know in your organization, in an organization that you've worked with that might be able to help you. And if you're thinking about someone you know personally, talk to them about what the expectations are, because there are a lot of things that phone calls, webinars, so if they're working another kind of a job, they might not be able to participate in all the things you need them for. They'll be helping you on the day of, if you have an event or a project, they'll be helping you with that. So let them know what some of the requirements are, and I'll probably help you gauge better who could be a supportive adult for your project. So this year, there are 2 levels of awards. So there will be a $2,500 award, 5 of those given out, and 6 awards of $1,250. So this year, we are planning to have the initial awards announced in January. And by the end of January, awardee projects would get 80% of their award money. Then after they participate in the webinars and the coaching calls that are required, in April, they would get the rest of the award money. All the projects need to be completed by June 30th. So it's a short window, it's 6 months. And all of the evaluation and reporting needs to be back to us at Youth Move National by July 30th. We did it this year to cover Children's Mental Health Awareness Day, which is in May, which is the month of May. And that way, projects can be used in conjunction with other funding or other activities that are happening for the month of May. But it doesn't have to be. It can be whatever you want to do in that time frame. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the projects. So just like the application, funded projects must be developed and run by youth. They must be relevant to youth and young adult mental health in America, and they must be innovative. So think about, is this a new idea? Is this something that has been done in my community before? Projects must demonstrate reach. Reach is the amount of people that you'll be able to impact by your project. So will this project reach several people in my school, my youth organization, or my community? So if it's just going to affect you and your best friend, that's not really demonstrating reach. But think about what could you do to help your community better understand mental health, reduce stigma, anti-bullying. There's lots of different categories that this falls under, but you can think about how many people you might be able to reach doing this project. And impact. So will the project have an effect on participants' knowledge, attitudes, beliefs, or actual behaviors? So what do you want people to take away from your project or event that they didn't know before? Or maybe you want to change the way people think or act. How are you going to do that? And those are the things to think about when you're developing your project idea. So last year's projects can be found here. We'll click on here and we'll go over some of last year's projects. But things to consider while this fires up is the budget. So, oh, it doesn't want to do it. $2,500 sounds like a lot of money in the beginning of any project, but it can run out very quickly. So think about if you were to have a speaker at a one-day event. That speaker might want $2,000 to come and speak at your event, which means you have $500 left to do everything else, which isn't a lot. So think about what your budget might be and other ways that you can fundraise to get additional money. So maybe your agency or organization wants to match the money that Dare to Dream offers, or you can do some extra fundraising to increase the amount that you have to work with. And the time constraints. Doing a project in 6 months can be pretty hectic, and think about how you might plan around that. And have everything done at the end of June, which for many of you is the end of school. So you might have a shift in roles. You may have other duties and responsibilities around that time. So think about that, because you want to have a plan in place before you get started. For past projects, you can definitely take a look at our website. Some examples include t-shirts about mental health stigma. We had some folks do a presentation. So they did have a speaker come in and do a youth conference day. Those are just two of the ideas just from last year. But previous awardees are on our website. Told you guys, Zoom is being weird today. So, all right. So we're going to give you some money. So what are your responsibilities? All right. Dare to Dream, the team must participate in 3 coaching calls. That will be with me or Maddie throughout the lifespan of the project. So there will be 3 times that we schedule to be on a phone call with either just your group, or we might partner you with another group who's doing a similar project. There will be 4 webinars, not including this one. So this one doesn't count. You get 4 webinars throughout. They'll do initial overview of the project, so we'll get more into this, kind of the responsibilities, some due dates, that kind of thing. We'll be talking about evaluation. We'll do a check-in, and then we'll have everybody give a final report out on their projects. The other responsibility is that you have to agree to have project reports and your pictures shared on our national website. They don't have to be identified, but we'd like pictures of your project and event. And that you'll complete a final report and accounting summary, and you'll have that all due by the deadlines for your project. So another note on evaluation and reporting. As part of each project, teams are going to be asked to describe how they're going to evaluate their project. So how are you going to know if your project was a success? You'll need to know if you've promoted mental health and increased mental health awareness among your peers or in your community, right? So when we talked about impact earlier, what did you want to see change? How will you know that you did it? It could be a survey, it could be a peer review, it could be a feedback form, for example, but something needs to be built into your project that evaluates the success of your project. We have a final report format that we'll provide awardees with to complete, and it'll include bringing in your evaluation. We also ask participants to evaluate the project and the participation in the project. So we'll send your team members a survey about, did you feel like you had a part in this project? How did the planning process go? Was coaching helpful? More of the how did it go, and less of was the project a success? So more of how you thought about it. So those are the things that are required for evaluation and reporting. Okay. So the next steps, if you're thinking about applying for a Dare to Dream America award, ask yourself, does my project meet the criteria to be eligible for this opportunity? Then, are you able to commit to attending the required webinars and coaching calls? Identify a supportive adult. Can be a person with experience in the field of youth and young young adult mental health who's going to support your group. And that can kind of happen at the same time as step number 2, because they'll also need to be able to be available for those webinars and coaching calls. And then complete the application form. So you can print them out and fill it in by hand, or you can type it in and print it, mail it. You can also scan it, fax it. All of that information is on the application itself. So the Youth Move National team is here to help. We're unable to coach you on your application. We can answer a lot of questions, but you can't send us an idea and say, do you think this is a good idea? Because this is a competition. And we aren't in charge of the review process. There will be another committee that's in charge of looking at all the applications. So we can help you with some of the logistics and the technical things, like if you're not sure what a question's asking you for, then we can help with that. But we can't give you feedback about whether or not we think your project idea is great, because that wouldn't be fair. We can also answer questions about evaluation and reporting, what role the supportive adult may have, those kinds of things. And throughout the project, if you get an award, your team will be supported by the Youth Move National staff. You can send all your questions to the Dare to Dream at youthmovenational.org. So I had some frequently asked questions already, and then it'll be time for you guys to ask questions, so get yourselves ready. So a question I've already received, do I have to apply with a group or a team? No, it's not required. However, these processes can involve a lot of steps, so having at least a small team of other youth and your supportive adult would be highly recommended. So take that into consideration and think about how that might affect your project. Someone else from my Youth Move chapter is applying. Can we both win an award? You're all welcome to apply, but only a chapter or a chapter member can only win one award in a round. And last year's winners are not eligible for an award this year. So that's something to consider as well. When will awards be announced? We will be announcing them in early January, and awardees should plan to have their first disbursement by the beginning of February at the latest. So we'd hope to have all of the paperwork in place to be able to get you the first payment so you can get your project started by the end of January. So we said the beginning of February, just in case. Okay, so now it's time for your questions, and we can, let me just check the chat box. Okay. All right, I don't see any questions. Thank you everyone for introducing yourselves. Okay, and I'll let you guys unmute yourselves, because if I hit unmute, we'll hear everything that's going on at everyone's office or house. So make sure if you have a question that you hit the unmute button on your screen, and if you are having trouble with it, let me know. So what questions does anyone have?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I wanted to know, how do you find out about your chapter? Because I heard you mention the word, you know, if you're a part of a chapter, like how do you, is there a list where the chapters are?
Yes, if you are part of it, you don't have to be part of a Youth Move chapter to apply. Mm-hmm. So if you were a member of a Youth Move chapter, you would probably know which chapter you belong to, but you don't have to be part of a chapter in order to apply. We encourage other youth organizations and groups to apply as well. If you have a question about chapters that are in your area, you can go to our website, and we have a map where you can see the updated chapter list.
Oh, okay. So I'll look there.
Yeah, but you don't have to be a member of a chapter in order to apply.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, so someone had a question. It said the max is 1,000. So this year you can apply for either one. So let us know. So the question is, on the budget it says the max is 1,000. If you're applying as a group, is the max 2,500? So that might just be a typo. You can apply for your project, whether you're an individual or a group. You can apply for one or the other. You can't apply for both. So when you write in your project award, you would say, I, Marika, am applying for $2,500. And you could talk about your project, and I think there's a section about proposed budget ideas. So you can use whichever one you applied for is what you would fill in for that one. Does that answer your question, Alexa? Okay, I got the nod. All right. Oh, yes. What if we don't use all of the funds? Okay. In the rare event, listen, I like to spend money, so I have never had this personally happen to me where I had extra money left over. However, it can happen. What we would like for you to do is try to find a way to work that money into another youth something activity in your organization or with your group. So for example, groups usually don't have too much money left over, but let's say you have $100 left over. Instead of giving it back to us, we would suggest, highly recommend, that you maybe have a team celebration for your project. Have a pizza party or whatever you would like to do, because it is sometimes very difficult for us to take money. It's a time-consuming process. It's difficult for us to take money back. If you have half of your money left over, and we're halfway through the project, we'll be talking with you during coaching calls about your budget. Maybe you're underestimating something. And if it's a significant amount of money, we would work with your organization to take that money back. But we would ask that if it was, you'll have to report to us if you have money left over. So we'll talk throughout the process about what can be done with that money. If there are other activities within your organization that it could be used for that are for youth and young adults. Okay, I'm catching up. Do all individuals in the group have to attend all the webinars, or can we have one represent all? That is a good question. At minimum, you would want to have one person represent, but it's better to have more, and but the webinars would be recorded. The reason I say it's better to have more is because sometimes, especially on webinars, and I know because we work remotely, right, you could like zone off for a second or get a phone call or a text on your phone and miss a piece of information, or have a question and you're not sure. You might want to ask your team member first before you reach out to us to ask if you heard something right, or is that what we said. Not everyone is required to be on all of them. We would love for the team check-ins. The more people who can be on the webinars is great, but they will be recorded and then we can send them out later. So we would hope that we would be able to send out doodle polls and get a time that's good for almost everyone on the call. What we would like to see is that if there is one representative, like the webinars is one thing, the coaching calls need to have as many folks on them at a time so that we can really work through any concerns. You might want to have 2 or 3 folks from each group. I wouldn't want to have like one person on one call and then somebody different, because it's going to be hard to communicate in between. So we can work that out if you're not sure everyone's going to be available. And historically, the webinars for Dare to Dream have been later in the afternoon, and coaching calls have been in the early evening, late afternoon, early evening, to accommodate people's work schedules and so on. On the application, one question says, how did you prioritize the project? Can you explain a bit about what that means? I will in a second. Let me pull up the application. So I'm going to jump your question, Alexa, to the next one. Can there be more than one supportive adult? Yes, there can be more than one supportive adult. There can be a backup. There can be, there shouldn't be more supportive adults than there are youth and young adults on the project. So if you're a team of 3 youth, you probably shouldn't have 5 supportive adults, but 1 or 2 is fine, especially to as the backup. That's actually a great idea, and similar to why we would ask that you have team members. Okay, prioritize the project. I believe that question, and let me just check. Is it required for you to participate in the calls and webinars? Yes. So at least a few representatives from because this is a youth-driven and youth-led project. So all of the information that we provide on the webinars is going to be helping the youth continue to work on their project and design and develop the rest of their project. The webinars that are about the check-in, mid-process and the end of the project check-in will allow peer-to-peer learning. So you may have one group that's checking in about how their project's going and they're saying we're stuck on this, and another group might have a solution. So we really encourage peer-to-peer learning, and we ask that as many youth from a group are available. What happens if the project doesn't get done in time by June 30th? We would hope that everything runs smoothly, but we understand. And if a project runs over, you would need to send us, we talk about it in coaching, and you'd need to send us an email explaining why your project ran over and when your new expected deadline would be. So let's say a weather event happens and you have to cancel whatever you're going to do in May, and now you can't reschedule that event or that venue until July. Write us an email about what happened, and we'll be in touch with you throughout the process, supporting you along the way. So anytime there's like a oopsie, we'll be here to answer questions. So you can send an email about what happened, and we talk about a new deadline and work out when that would change when you're reporting. We would hope everything got done by June 30th. It's always good to have a deadline to keep everybody together. Okay. And it was a question about the application. So let me just pull it up. Hey, everybody. All right, so I'm going to take myself off the video for a second and get the application pulled up, and then I'll reshare it. So that was a lot of questions by chat. Does anyone have other questions that they haven't chatted? So we can, while I'm trying to. All right. Let's go. Okay. If you haven't seen it already, this is the Dare to Dream page on our website. And here's where you find the application. Here's where you can email us. All right. And the question was about how did you prioritize? So I'll open this one up so you guys can see it. It doesn't want to let me share it.
Go through the whole application like real quick, just like to see if any questions might pop up.
You said you want to look at it real quick? Yeah, we can do that. Hang on a second. I have to fix this though. Okay, I'll do it that way. Okay. All right. So let me find the priority question. I will tell you, I've looked at this thing a million times, but I have yet to memorize it. So if I miss the part that we were looking for. Okay. And it's also long, and we know it's long, but it all really needs to be in there, I promise you. Here's a list of folks who, just an example of folks who can be a supportive adult. This is a good thing, a good page to reference. It also has what the expectation of a supportive adult is, what a memorandum of agreement is, and let me find, how did you prioritize? If you are a youth group chapter, the name of your project. Okay, is this, Alexa, I believe this is where you were asking. Let me just zoom out a little bit. Why is this project important to your community? Why did you select this project, and how did you prioritize this one? So really it's thinking about, this question is asking the first two questions. So maybe if you think the prioritized question is, let's say your group came up with 3 different ideas, and you landed on project A is the one you want to submit for a Dare to Dream award. Explain in your words why project A was the winner. Versus, you don't have to explain what projects B and C were, but just tell us why project A was the winner and why you think that's more important than other projects that you could do. Does that answer your question, Alexa? You can chat it if you want. Did anyone else have questions about what the application is asking for? And if you do, you certainly have time. There's a month until the deadline. And sometimes, I know how I am, so I'll only speak from experience. Sometimes I read something and I'm like, oh yeah, I totally understand what that means. And then when I go to fill out the question, I'm like, wait, what? So, especially once you have a project idea. So if you're not sure where something fits, we can definitely tell you where that information would go and like what a question is asking you. So you can always email us to follow up if you're not sure today. Yes, if you need more room, you can write it in a separate paper. As you download it, this is a Word document, so you should be able to do like make more spaces. If your formatting gets funky, you can certainly write on an extra sheet of paper and just make sure you number it and tell me what, like write down in here. So if you were answering how will your project address this mental health issue or challenge and you ran out of room, just at the end, please write see other sheet so that we know to look for the rest of your answer. Okay. Your end date can be before June 30th. If you think your project's going to be done in May, then great. You can definitely put that in here for sure. Here's one. So this question asks, how will your project increase personal skills and efficacy? So in case you're not sure what that is, efficacy is your skills and ability to do something, right? So it's not necessarily, some people think it's like self-esteem, but it's not really. Self-esteem is how you feel about something. Even if you can't actually do it, you might feel really good about it. Efficacy is your ability to do something. So how good you are at something. So if this is the first time or maybe the third time you've done a project, you can talk about how this is going to help your time management skills, maybe, for example. Okay, then there's going to be an action plan that you'll need to fill out, the budget, and make sure that all adds up. And then letting us know how you're going to evaluate the project. There is and a section for the supportive adult. And it very clearly says that we will not review proposals that have been prepared and submitted by adults. So make sure that you are in the supportive role and that this is a youth-led project. There's a section that the supportive adult would need to fill out. And all the conditions for funding. Basically, we need someplace to send the check. Get an administrator, and we will send what's called a memorandum of agreement, which is an agreement between us and that organization about payment. So that's important to think about who is going to help you with this project as well. Everybody's signature, and that is finally the end, 19 pages later. But the first 4 pages are really describing Dare to Dream and all of the project requirements, because it is a big commitment. It's a great opportunity. It's a commitment to learning new skills for yourself as well as having an impact in your community. So with that commitment, there just needs to be some definite understanding of expectations and the requirements, so that nobody in April is like, I didn't know it was going to be like this. We're trying to avoid that. It happens all the time in lots of projects. You'll have a whole lifetime of like, wait, what? I didn't know this was what we were doing. But we really want to help you along the way and be here to coach you, and part of that is to have very clear expectations up front. So that's why we're hosting this webinar, and again, the one on the 6th. So if there were people who might be in your group who were interested and couldn't attend today, if they can attend on the 6th, that's great. If they can't make either webinar date, please reach out to us at the Dare to Dream email, and we'll send you the link to today's recording so you can share it with them and let them know what the expectations are. Any other questions before we wrap up a few minutes early today? And did I miss anyone's question in the chat box? It's great. Drive and passion are great, and paperwork is not a strength that many people have. So maybe what you want to consider is who on your team, or when you're gathering your team, and I always think about like superheroes, so like the Avengers. So they all have different strengths. Who on your team is good at paperwork and good at filling things out? Maybe you want to tap into them for that part. You're also more than welcome to print as many of these out as you want to. So you can have 4 drafts before you send it to us. We will never know how many drafts it took. So we just want to be sure that there's authentic youth voice in all of the applications, and we'll be able to tell if that's not there. So feel free to draft as many things as you need to. If you need someone else, maybe your supportive adult or someone else on your team, to look over what you've written in a draft, that's a great way to use a supportive person. And if you attend this webinar, no, you don't have to attend the next, because it's going to be the exact same thing. If someone from the other group asks something that wasn't addressed here, we will, I'm planning, hopefully, to make an FAQ sheet with today's questions and the questions from next time, and then we'll post it on the website along with the application. Or we'll send you guys an email if there was anything very different. And if you guys have questions in the meantime, feel free. Between now and the next webinar, you can feel free to email between now and the application date. Okay. Well, I look forward to, if that's all the questions, I look forward to getting your applications for Dare to Dream. I'm really excited about this round. and the projects for this year. And I love seeing what young people come up with for project ideas. They're always fantastic, and it's always hard to choose. I'm glad I don't have to choose, that we let that up to somebody else. So if we could, we'd give everybody money, but it's not how it works. So if you have questions, email us at daretodream@youthmovnational, and good luck. We hope we'll get applications from each and every one of you. So I'm going to wrap up a few minutes early and let you guys go for the end of your day. And like I said, please reach out if you have any questions. So thanks all for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.
Thank you. It was great
Bye,
information.
everyone.
Bye.